So now that Fantastic Four: The First Steps has officially hit theaters, we officially have 4 Fantastic Four movies. We're gonna rank them all. Let's do it. So Fantastic Four: The First Steps came out last weekend, or this past weekend, and has already been making waves in terms of breaking numbers, all that jazz, right? Now, I am going to be doing an MCU ranking once Eyes of Wakanda comes out later this week. I kind of wanted to just hold off a little bit on that so that I could include Eyes of Wakanda in there. What's really funny about the Fantastic Four movies is that they always seem to come out every 10 years, aside from Silver Surfer, which was a direct sequel to the 2005 version. We got Fantastic Four, you know, with Chris Evans and Jessica Alba and that whole cast in 2005. We got Fan Four Stick in 2015, and now we are getting Fantastic Four: The First Steps in 2025. I really hope we do not have to wait till 2035 for another Fantastic Four movie. I don't really think that will be the case because, you know, you have to keep in mind that with those other ones, they were rebooting an entire, you know, casting an entirely new group. They were, you know, trying all these new things, right? I think Fantastic Four: First Steps is going to do a pretty well job making sure that these characters get to stay around, especially with Doomsday coming up. So, right before we kind of dive into this ranking, just know that, you know, if your favorite Fantastic Four movie isn't at the top of my list, I can't really help you. It's your list. That would be your list, not my list. So, let's rank them. Coming in dead last is Fan Four Stick. Now, I don't think this is a surprise to anybody, just being on how straying from the original concept of Fantastic Four this movie goes. I mean, you do have the powers, technically. That's really where it stops. I mean, a lot of the stuff that goes on in this movie is like trying to take on this like really serious, like almost like body horror vibe to the Fantastic Four name. And like they're like, oh my god, like these things that happen to us, like we got to get rid of it. And that's literally the plot of the entire movie until like 10 minutes after, and they're just like, no, I think we're gonna keep our powers, when they spent the entire movie trying to like fight it, which it just doesn't feel like it like is earned at all, which you wouldn't want it to be earned because they're the Fantastic Four. You wouldn't want them to get rid of their powers, right? Doom is bad in this. For me, the biggest takeaway is that they never really, I mean, aside from like a 3 to 4 minute scene, they never really get to like team up or like actually be the Fantastic Four. It's just each of these individual people that were affected by the science experiment. They're just being studied on or like separated, and they don't even get to like interact with the public. Like they never get to save anyone really. They're only fighting a fight. They're never really getting to actually save civilians or like do all this stuff, right? It's just boring. And for that, it's gotta be last place for me. Coming in at number 3, I have Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. I think this movie is okay. I don't love it. I don't even really like it that much. It's just okay. Obviously the big glaring problem here is that Galactus isn't even a person, but rather just a giant cloud that devours things. Now, I will give them props because Silver Surfer in this movie is pretty cool. You know, they do him pretty well design-wise and just kind of like making sure he looks just awesome, right? The thing that I'm not crazy about in this movie is that everything else just kind of like, you never really get much development from any of the other characters. The biggest one is probably just Reed and his big brain of like, gotta make sure that I'm prioritizing my wedding over dying. And that's like the biggest thing in terms of development. I mean, the Thing and Johnny don't really have anything. I will say they do kind of like introduce that whole factor of like with Johnny and being able to like switch powers with everyone. And it's cool, but it's not really utilized until like the last like 10 minutes of the movie. And even then it's like a 5-minute sequence. I wish they kind of utilized it in the plot more. That would have been cool. And then they try to involve like Doctor Doom in a plot that doesn't even need to be about Doctor Doom. It's completely Galactus and Silver Surfer. And it just kind of like ruined that for me. And my runner-up, I have Fantastic Four 2005. Now, listen, I think this is a fine cast. I actually don't have a problem with any of the main cast here. But the one thing that I constantly see people talking about is, oh, well, didn't The Thing look so much better back in the 2005 version? Absolutely not. I am one of the biggest advocates, and always have been, that The Thing in this movie, I mean, maybe for the time it looked okay, but let's not like stand here in 2025 and try to say that this looks anything close to being better than the Ben Grimm we got in First Steps. I mean, quite honestly, it just looks bad. It looks like someone has like a plaster, you know, mold of a rock formation, and that's exactly what he's wearing, which, yes, obviously is what he's wearing, but, you know, this was at a time when CGI was not too bad. I mean, it was 2005. I think they could have touched up the suit a little bit, but maybe it just wasn't in the budget. I also think, you know, that this iteration of the characters is fine, but again, when we're talking about the Fantastic Four as a whole, this iteration to me is more about just like superhero, like crime fighting, and not so much more that they're like a family. This movie is fine, and it has, you know, the friends, and they're coexisting, and they're learning their powers, and you have Doom with that, and it works, but it's not the best it can be, if that makes sense. But easily in first place is Fantastic Four First Steps. If you've been following my page for a while, you'll know that this was my most anticipated movie of the year. And I've been waiting years for this movie to come out, because ever since, you know, we got pitched the aesthetic of this movie being like a retro 60s futurism thing, and it taking place on a completely different Earth, and the fact that they were really honing on and just, this is a family that also happens to be a superhero team. That's what I loved about it. That, not that it was some, you know, modern, like, no, it felt, and you have to give it, you know, credit where credit is due. It almost feels like a Marvel version of The Incredibles, which, no, I do not hate that at all. I love just one of my favorite things about this movie was the first 5 minutes of like them introducing how they're already perceived in this Earth, and like them rescuing all these different people, and how the second that they get their powers, they try to embrace the gifts that they have by saving humanity, instead of just like where Fanforstic would, oh, this is a curse, you know, all of those things. They really embrace it here, and they become like loved by the people. They so much, in fact, that like they are seen as like the Earth heroes. No one else, it's just them, and they're like all like a big family with this giant, you know, with this, all of the Earth just loves them. Mix that in with a plot about them, you know, literally risking that, where they have to not give up their child, Franklin Richards, to a giant, you know, space god. Now you have the people questioning, oh, do they really care about us? Do they just think we're puny? And seeing that all unfold, seeing Vanessa Kirby play Sue Storm and deliver this role as like a mother who, you know, necessarily obviously won't give up her child, but isn't just ready to let the Earth die for her child either. And she makes that very clear in probably one of the best speeches of the entire movie. It's just a fun family movie, and visually just looks miles better than any of the other movies on this list. So that is why it has to be at number 1 for me. So yeah, guys, that is my ranking for all 4 Fantastic Four movies. Leave a comment down below letting me know your Fantastic Four ranking, and just kind of why you picked those certain movies, and why they might, you know, feel less or more to you than they did for me. I'd love to know all that down in the comments. Consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss any more rankings, like the one coming out this later this week about the MCU rankings. You can kind of see where I put Fantastic Four: The First Steps on my MCU ranking. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace, Colonels.